Now, as a fan, you want to just think, hey, that means they're starting new. I was a huge fan of TNA back in 2008, 2011, 2012, when it was at its peak. That's when I loved TNA and total nonstop action. That's exactly what they want you to think. Here comes trouble! This is what I believe. And I'm going to start out this rant with a very, very bold claim. WWE is gearing up to buy TNA. Yes, folks, you heard it here first on the Meat Pop Express podcast, where we meet pop, we jaw drop, and we never job. You heard it here first. Big Trouble Ben Bishop is telling you, the wrestling consumer, the sweaty mark that you are, that WWE is going to buy TNA. Now let's get into it. Over the weekend, it was reported, Ringside News came out, and they said that Lou D'Angeli has left TNA. Did he leave on his own accord? I don't know all the business behind it, but he is gone. Lou D'Angeli was the VP of marketing at Anthem, worked very closely with TNA. That is yet another high-ranking official from TNA who has seen the door. Now, why do I make the claim? You could be saying Big Trouble. That just sounds like somebody's leaving. Maybe he's taking another job, and he very well could. I don't know everything. This is just a rant. This is just a claim that I'm making, and this is my opinion. My opinion that I have built over the past 10, 12 years of being a professional in the workplace. Yes, I have a full-time job. No, I'm not going to tell you what I do. You could probably find it if you really wanted to do the research and you really cared that much. Go ahead and look it up. Really not that secretive of a person. But I've been working in smaller companies. I've been working in bigger companies. I've seen acquisitions. I've seen cost-cutting measures, or what you can call profit growth plans. I've seen layoffs. And what I've seen recently with TNA is all the makings of them gearing up for a sale. Now, TNA is owned by Anthem, correct? The station. I could be wrong there again. I'm not doing a ton of research on this. I'm just going off the cuff, off the top of my head, and what I'm seeing and all the reports that have been coming out. They're owned by Anthem. Anthem looks to be cutting some of their top officials like Lou D'Angeli, like other members of his team. But don't forget, a few months ago, Scott D'Amore also left TNA. Scott D'Amore being the owner. And it was said Scott D'Amore, this was another rumor, that Scott D'Amore put in an offer on TNA. And subsequently got turned down with that offer from Anthem. So I shouldn't say Scott D'Amore was the owner. I should say Scott D'Amore was the head honcho in charge. Let me correct myself before we continue. Anthem owns TNA. He wanted to buy out TNA directly. He wanted to be the sole owner of TNA, and he got turned down. I hold myself accountable. I wanted to make sure that I'm giving you all the facts, or somewhat close to the facts. So he's gone. We've also seen recently R.D. Evans, a member of the creative team. He left TNA on his own accord. Was he forced out? Not sure. Not going to speculate on that. And now Lou D'Angeli, VP of marketing at Anthem, working closely with TNA, is also gone. This is the number one sign when a company starts to gear up for a sale. You start seeing these high-level, like the C-level employees, executives, start to walk out the door. You see these defections start to happen. Could it be a coincidence? Of course. Of course this could all be a coincidence. But for the most part, it's not. These are direct cost-cutting measures. Let's go back to 2020 when Nick Khan was brought into WWE. And what was the one reason Nick Khan was brought into the WWE? To position them for a sale. And in 2020 and 2021, what did we start seeing from the WWE? Budget cuts. Started seeing people leaving. We started seeing consolidations of departments. Nick Khan looks at the balance sheet. Who do we need? Who do we not need? He has no connection with anybody on the roster, no connection with anybody in the business. He's just looking, he's a pure numbers guy. He's a pure businessman coming straight from Hollywood as a super agent. And he's looking directly at the sheets and saying, who do we need? Who do we not need? And he made some things happen. He was hung out to dry for a while. For his first few years, people thought Nick Khan was the worst thing to happen to professional wrestling. Fast forward to now, he could possibly be the best thing to happen to the WWE. The most profitable they've ever been. But the first few years, what we saw was him cleaning house, for lack of a better term. Getting rid of some people. Unfortunately, it's not what we like to happen. Wish everybody could be hired, everybody making good money. But that's just not realistic. That's not life. So he started saying, all right, let's make some hard decisions, and let's start clearing out the budget. And then what happened? They got bought by Endeavor, and like I said, most profitable they've ever been. So that's the first thing that I'm noticing. You get the cost cutting, and you got key defectors leaving TNA. Key decision makers and executives defecting from TNA, I should say. Another thing that stuck out to me. A few months ago, TNA rebranded itself back to TNA. It was Impact before. There was a big social media blitz. A big PR blitz. We're going back to our roots. Now, as a fan, you want to just think, hey, that means they're starting new. I was a huge fan of TNA back in 2008, 2011, 2012, when it was at its peak. That's when I loved TNA and total nonstop action. That's exactly what they want you to think. Because by rebranding it back to TNA, you might be getting what they want. Going to be getting some of those people who remember it as TNA coming back. When the company was at its highest, it was called TNA. It wasn't called Impact Wrestling. So bring it back. Bring back the branding, what people know it most as. Bring back to TNA. And make the company more lucrative. That's the second reason. The third is what we've seen recently. We're seeing Jordynne Grace pop up more. She popped up in the Royal Rumble. She's now in NXT. She has a few dates. Is this the WWE trying to see, okay, how will our audience react to somebody like a Jordynne Grace? One of the top performers, one of the top wrestlers in TNA. They want to see how worth it this might be for them. And I think, my personal opinion, it's been going great. People are reacting very, very highly to the appearance of Jordynne Grace showing up. Now, because of this, because you're seeing Jordynne Grace show up on wrestling, this might just be like, oh, they're doing a Forbidden Door thing, and they're going to work together. I know it's a new regime. I know Nick Khan, Triple H think a little bit different. But I don't think the goal of theirs is to work together with TNA. They want to outright own TNA. And the last thing I wanted to leave you with was that this was another report that came out. Again, who's right, who's wrong, who knows? But since Jordynne Grace started making appearances at NXT, or made her appearance at NXT, and we're going to see her a little bit more often, a report came out that a lot of people backstage don't know beyond, I think the month was August, of what's going on with TNA or what's going to happen past that. There seems to be a halt on travel plans, a halt on dates. Nobody really has a solid idea of what's going on. And that's, coming from the dirt sheets, and that's coming from people with sources. And I'm just gonna say what I heard, and I'm gonna put two and two together. That's another sign of a company that's getting ready to sell. Not too many plans, not many people in the know. A lot of people questioning. and a lot of murmurs of, hey, what's going on? What are we going to do? So I'm going to leave you with a few reasons. Again, I don't know. I could be totally off base. This could just be a working relationship. Could be a few one-offs and just to have some fun. Triple H is a wrestling fan, so that very well could be it. I don't see somebody like a Nick Khan just wanting to have some fun. Look at Nick Khan. Does it look like he's a guy who just wants to have some fun? Or does he look like an absolute cold-blooded American businessman that wants to do good goddamn business? And for everyone's sake, I think it could be great business. If WWE buys TNA, there are so many unbelievable TNA athletes, professional wrestlers out there. Guys like Alex Hammerstone come to mind, who should have been in WWE at this point. But he's in TNA right now. Guy's an absolute machine, can work his ass off, looks better than 99.99%. Hey, might be one of the best looking wrestlers going right now aesthetically. Joe Hendry. No one's been harder than Joe Hendry over the past few months. Strike while the iron's hot with Joe Hendry. Of course, we're seeing Jordan Grace. There's plenty others that are in TNA. Rich Swann used to be in WWE. I think he deserves another shot. Rich Swann, one of the most underrated wrestlers on the planet. Let's get him back into WWE or working more with WWE. Get more eyes on guys like Rich Swann. That's just to name a few. But we'll see. We'll see, and it should be a pretty exciting few months, but my final prediction is that between October of 2024 and March of 2025, or just before WrestleMania, TNA will be owned by WWE, or, to put it more technically, Endeavor. That's it. Take it to the bank, folks, because old Big Trouble, he ain't always right, but he's right more often than not. Keep it positive, keep it trucking, and keep the shades on, because the sun never sets on a cool guy.